Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 20 of my design patterns video tutorial. Today we're going to talk about the state design pattern. So what is the state design pattern? It allows objects to alter its behavior when its internal state changes. And in doing so, the object will appear to change its class. Just like in previous design pattern tutorials, this one's all about composition. And you're going to have three main parts, and this is going to be probably the most confusing slide that you see in this whole entire presentation. And of course, tons of code is going to follow this. First, you're going to have what is called the context or the account. What it's going to do is maintain an instance of a concrete state subclass that is going to define the current state. And if that makes no sense to you, it will when I start showing you pictures here in a second. Then you're going to have the state, which defines an interface for encapsulating the behavior associated with a particular state of the context. And then you have the concrete state. Each subclass is going to implement a behavior associated with a state of the context. So let's look at some pictures and make sense of this. Alright, in this example, I'm going to talk about an ATM machine. Now, what you need to think about is what are all the states or possible situations an ATM is going to find itself in. Now, I really dumbed this down to make this easy to understand. But basically, an ATM is going to have roughly 4 states. It either has a card inserted or it doesn't have a card inserted. It has the correct PIN entered, and it either has cash or it doesn't have cash. In this situation, we're able to combine everything down to the point where it has no cash. Now, whenever you're trying to implement this state design pattern, you want to try to get as few states as possible. Otherwise, things can get quite confusing. Then what you want to do is think about all the different ways the user can use the ATM. They can insert a card, they can eject a card, they can insert a PIN, and they can request cash. And that is going to be the basis of how we're going to implement this state design pattern. And here you see the actual implementation. Here is going to be the interface. This over here, by the way, is the context, which we talked about previously, if you want to rewind and look at that again. But this is the interface that everything's going to be based off of. And what did I do here? I just listed all the methods that a user is going to be able to do in regards to using a ATM machine. Then from that, I'm going to take all the possible states and throw all those methods inside of these states. So these 3 states down here are also going to have these methods inside of it. And then based off of which state or class is going to be defined, insert card is going to do different things based off of what it is. Then over here, what you're going to do is you're going to store the current state in ATM state, and then you're going to define all these different classes right here. And then you're just going to simply, based off the state of the ATM machine, change this value up here. Also, we're going to monitor inside of a field whether there is still cash inside of a machine, and also we're going to monitor using a boolean whether the correct PIN number was entered. Then on top of that, what we're going to do is allow the user to change the state based off of things that go on over inside of here, and that's what's going on with set ATM state. And then these guys, insert card, eject card, insert PIN, and request cash, what they are going to do is, whenever they're called, simply send the user to the specific method that is specific to this state that is set here. Now, hopefully you're getting about 30% there in understanding the state design pattern. So now we're going to get into the code and explain it step by step. Okay, so we're into the code area, and the first thing we're going to do here is define our interface, which is going to be called atmstate.java, and all of the code is underneath the video, and you should probably get it because then you will totally understand this stuff. So like I said before, what are we going to do here? Well, we're going to define all of the ways that the user is going to be able to work with our ATM machine. So they're going to be able to insert a card, they're going to be able to eject a card, they're also going to be able to insert a PIN, and then we're just going to go in here and go int PIN entered, and then they're also going to be able to request cash. And this is also, just to be simple here, I'm just going to have this be an int because I've never seen an ATM shoot out pennies. And there you go, there is your interface. That's all you're going to have to do with this guy. Now what I'm going to do is go into atmmachine.java and start playing around with the context or the account that we refer to right here. See, context account. That's going to be our actual ATM machine. So back to the code. Alright, now inside of ATM machine we're going to define all our different states, and I haven't defined these yet, so error message is going to pop up all over over the place. So we're just going to go copy that. And there's basically going to be 4 states. So it's going to have has card, and then there's going to be no card, and then we're going to have has correct in, and then we're going to have ATM out of money. So those are going to be our different guys we're going to work with. And then this, the actual ATM state that's going to be stored inside of here, is going to change its state value based off of conditions. And then we're going to go int cash in machine, and just again to keep this simple, I'm going to set this to 2000, and then we're also going to have a boolean inside of here, and it's going to say correct pin entered, and I'm going to start off with false because there's no pin entered whenever they first start. And then we're going to go public ATM machine, create a constructor for this guy, and then we're going to have all of these guys initialize themselves. So paste that there, and then let's just get rid of all that. Okay, so now we just have to initialize them. Is equal to new as card, and that's going to be past this, which is a reference to itself. Dot da da dot da da dot da da, and then this is going to be no card, and then we're going to define these in a second here. And this is going to be has pin, and then this last one is going to be no cash, and then we're going to also come in here and go ATM state and give ATM state an initial state of no card. And stick with me here. If you're not quite getting it, you'll catch on. It's all composition just like before. And then we're going to come in here and go if cash in machine is less than 0, ATM state is going to be equal to ATM out of money. And then we need to set all of our different states. So we're going to also allow them to change the ATM states, meaning the other states, whenever certain actions occur. Like if we run out of money, we're going to change our state to no cash. So new ATM state, and then that's going to be passed over, new ATM state, and that'll be set. And then we're going to go public void set cash in machine. We're going to have to allow them to set that value for cash in machine so that we also know if we're running out of money. And that's just going to be cash in machine is equal to new cash in machine. The only thing confusing about this is the number of different classes you need. Just like most design patterns, if they hang you up, the reason why is you're using more classes than you're used to. And that's just something you have to work with and get over, because anyone who's new to writing more advanced code is going to have a little bit of a problem struggling with writing so many classes. But ultimately, it'll make your code better and it will make everything much more understandable, because look how simple this is. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to pass it to the right state. See, ATM state is going to be changing, and the way that ATM state is going to be changing is with this guy right here. So all this guy is going to do is take whatever you send to it and pass it along to the new state that is being defined by the ATM. And that's, either I have a card, I don't have a card, I have a PIN, or I have no cash. Okay, so don't let that confuse you. And then we're going to go eject card, and then what's this going to do? It's just going to pass it to the right place, like that. And we're going to be doing the same thing over and over again here for all the possible ways that the user can interact with this. So we're going to go request cash, and then this is going to be int cash to withdraw, and then what's going to go on, basically you're going to pass that to the method that's defined in the current state that is defined. And then the final thing is insert pin, and then this is just going to be an integer and it's pin entered. And these are all the things that are defined in ATM state. See, right there. So that's all that's going on with that. So I just need to define them right, and then of course pass this along to the right method inside of that class that we're going to define here in a second. And then we're also going to have to provide a way for them to get the current state. So we're going to say get yes card state, meaning do they have a card or not, return as card. So that's going to allow them to change states as well. Get, this is going to be no card state, and then this is going to be changed to no card. Get as pin, and this is going to return as correct pin, and then the last one's going to be get no cash state, which is going to return a reference to the object that we create, ATM out of money. And all of these guys just come from here. So those are just going to return those state objects that you define there. That's all these four things do right there. So get rid of all that white space, and we are done with the context. And of course, get rid of that and get rid of that. There we are. File save, and everything is looking dandy. Except for the fact that we need to create all of these guys. Has card, no card, has pin, and no cache. So let's go into hascard.java. And there we are. And you can see here, implements ATM state. And if we put my mouse over this, it's going to say add unimplemented methods. And then I just need to come in here and think about logically what I need to do in all these different situations. Now, one thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to need to store the context, which is the actual object that I'm going to be working with here. And also I'm going to have to come in here and go public as card, which is going to be when they pass over the ATM object that we are required to use, so that we're using the same ATM object and not, messing that up. So we're going to pass a reference to our ATM machine over to this. We're going to take that. We're going to take this guy and assign it to our temporary holding cell, make some changes to it, Okay, so if you have a card and then they try to insert another card, what are you going to say? And this is all logic. From now on, this is piece of cake, no problem, totally understandable. You're going to have to say, you can't enter more than one card. See, that's all. You're done. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Now, we don't need to change the state because, well, it has a card. They tried to enter a new card. The state didn't change. You just gave them a warning sign. Okay, so what are we going to do if they try to eject the card? In that situation, we're going to print out a different message. Let's just say card ejected. There we are. And then what are we going to do? Well, now we don't have a card, so we're going to need to change the state for our ATM machine. So we're going to go ATM machine, which comes from this guy right here. And then we're going to have to go set ATM state. We need to change the state for our ATM machine because it just changed. And to set it, we're going to go ATM machine. We're going to say get no card state. Pass that back, boom, 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 and now the state has changed. And set ATM state is found where? In ATM machine.java. And if you scroll down, see? Set ATM state. And how is the state being passed? Right down here with these guys. See? These. Get Alright, so let's get back in here and continue fixing this up. So that's all we're doing is dynamically changing the class based off of different actions that are being performed. So then they come in and they say, okay, well, I want to insert a pin. Well, they inserted a card, so that sort of makes sense. So now we're going to go pin entered, and we're going to check is it equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Now again, we're not checking anything here real sophisticated. Okay, so let's just say, yeah, they entered 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is the correct one. Now you could say something like correct pin, and then what are you going to need to do? Well, you're going to have to change ATM machine. You're going to have to say, hey, the ATM machine, correct pin entered. This guy right here, well, it's false, so they entered the correct pin. So now what are we going to have to do? Well, we're going to have to come in and change that value. So ATM machine, correct pin entered, and we're going to set it to true. There we are, all done. And then of course, all right, so we got that set. And then what do we need to do? Well, we need to change the state for this, and that state is going to be get has pin. Done. You just did all that the right way. And then we're going to come in and go else. If they entered the wrong pin, well, we're going to have to punish them for that. And we're going to come in here to this, copy, shoot that out there. And we could say something like wrong pin, and then we're going to make sure this is set to false. I don't know if that needs to be done that way or not. I cranked this code out pretty quickly, and then I'm just going to come up here, doink, and I'm going to say something like card ejected. Let's just copy what that says up there, and then we're going to need to change the state, because remember, we're in has card. Well, if the card's ejected, well, what does that mean? Well, that means we're no longer a has card state because we just ejected the card. And to make that go through, we're going to go no, get no card state. Change that to that. So that's good. And then down here for request cache, if they request cache, What are we going to do? It's just giving them an error message and say, there, enter PIN first. Okay, so there you are, has cards done. So we're going to save that and we're going to move on to no card. And guess what? We're pretty much going to do the same thing. So go to no card, add unimplemented methods, click on that. That opens up. And now you got to define all the different things you want to do here differently. So let's just come in here. I'm going to do this, copy that, jump back over into nocard.java, paste that in there because I need a copy or a reference to the ATM machine. And this is just going to be changed to no card. So that's all fine. And this is going to be perfectly fine as well. Now, if there is no card and they enter a card, what are we going to do? We're going to have to print a message out to them. So that message is going to be, please enter a PIN. And then what are we going to do? We're going to change our card state to yes. Card state, because we got a card, because they just inserted a card, so that's great. And then eject card. Well, what are we going to do here? Well, we're in no card, so that doesn't work. So we're going to print out a message, enter a card first. Can't eject a card if they don't give us one. Come down here, and just to make this simple, I'm going to do the same thing. Enter a card first because you can't insert a PIN until you enter your card. And then request cash is also going to be exactly the same thing. So just copy that, come in there, boom, you're done. So there you are, no card's done. File save it. So what happens whenever they have a PIN? Well, that's where haspin.java comes in. I'm going to jump inside of here. Again, come in here, add unimplemented methods. Done with that. Has PIN, that just simply means that they entered a PIN and it worked out. Going to do this, and then we're going to change this to has PIN like that. Leave everything else the same. And then down here, insert card. Well, that's going to be already entered a card. So I'm actually going to copy this from that, jump back over into has PIN. If they already entered a card and they already entered a PIN, well, guess what? We don't want another card, so let's shoot that in there. Eject card's going to do the same exact thing as has card did over here. So I'm going to jump over here, copy that, and we're going to give them the card that they just entered, even though they also entered the right PIN. This is all just pure logic. Insert PIN, well, they already entered the correct PIN, so let's just get rid of that and make this simple. Already entered PIN. And then down here, request cash. Well, they entered the right PIN, so they should be able to come in here and request cash. So we're just got to make sure they have enough cash. So we're going to say if cash to withdraw is greater than, which is what they passed over to us, and then we're going to go ATM machine, and we're going to check cash in machine to make sure there's enough cash in our machine before we go and start trying to give them cash that doesn't exist. And then we're going to come on here, give them a message like this. They tried to ask for more cash than what we actually have. So we're going to come in there, copy that. And I'm going to say something like, don't have that cash. There you are. And then I'm going to eject their card and set their status back to no card. Else, I'm going to give them a little message that tells them how much cash was ejected. So let's just copy this, paste that in there. And then I'm going to go cash to withdraw plus and say something like is provided by the machine. And then I'm going to go into ATM machine and set cash in machine. I'm just accessing that field back there. And I'm going to go ATM machine dot cash in machine minus cash to withdraw. So I'm going to make sure that that is set up properly. And there we are. And then we're going to go your card is ejected and then set the status back to get no card. So pretty simple there. And then maybe as one additional little change, we could throw something in here like if ATM machine cash in machine is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to also come in here and change the state for our ATM machine, and that state is going to be set to get no cash state. See, the ATM machine is officially out of cash. And I think that's it. Yes, it is. Okay, so file save that. And then we just need to go into the last thing, which is going to be no cache.java. And this is going to be really easy. Just copy this guy right here again. We're going to do pretty much exactly the same thing. Paste that in there. We got a copy of our ATM machine. I'm going to change this to no cache. That is all going to stay the same. And then no cash is going to say, hey, you need to implement some methods. Well, okay, here we are, just implemented them. And then this is going to be really simple because I'm basically going to be giving it the same message. Okay, so if they insert a card and we don't have any money in our ATM machine, what are we going to say? We don't have money. Okay, so we're just going to print that out. That might cause a run on the bank, but either way, that's what we're going to do. Eject a card, well, we're just going to say we don't have money. You didn't enter a card. So, both ways we're not going to be able to do anything for you. Insert PIN, we don't have money. And to keep it extremely simple, request cash, guess what? We don't have any money. We're going to, of course, keep everything set to no cash because that's very important. We have no reason to change that. So let's test it out and see if we did it right. Going to go into test ATM machine here. I already did the code for this. Basically what we need to do is just create ourselves an ATM machine. We need to insert a card, eject a card, insert a card, enter a PIN, request cash, insert card, enter a PIN, and let's just see what happens. So let's execute it. And you can see, please enter a PIN, see, insert card, that's what it shoots out, card ejected. Please enter a PIN whenever they insert the card again. This time they entered a PIN. See, correct PIN right there. They requested $2,000. That's the maximum amount we have. $2,000 provided by the machine. Automatically ejects the card. Then you insert the card and it says we don't have money. And then it comes down here and you enter a PIN and it says we don't have money. So there it is. It's a state design pattern. If anything didn't make sense, leave a question or comment below. Of course, requests are always welcome. Otherwise, till next time.